how Hanifa had managed to do what NHIF has tried to do and failed, then they're even creating something new, and it's going to still fail. So we need to really think in everything that you do, everything that you say, that tweet you're tweeting. Tomorrow when you're going out, be your brothers and sisters' keeper. Remember, just do what is good for the group and put away your selfish ambitions, because I don't want another situation where we're divided and conquered, because I fear Ruto winning, and this man cannot win. You guys saw him yesterday in that interview. Oh my God. He cannot win, and we cannot let him win. I know I've heard all of you, and I know each and every one of us wants a better Kenya, and that's what we're fighting for. So let's keep up the fight. Let's to talk kesho, see what 10 million. Let us fight for a better Kenya. Maze, that's all I have to say.
Thank you so much, Karani. We have several tweets coming in and some reports that all other counties, so many counties are ready, and young people are. There are many people. Some have now starting.
I can't hear anything.
Dr. Miguna, can you hear me?
No, it's only now I'm hearing you. I was not hearing you before.
Okay. Let Hillary try to speak again, and then.
Dr. Can you hear me? I think Dr. is
and Maj, can you let Kigame speak? I know probably he has not requested, but I see him in the crowd, and it would be important probably to hear his voice.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Let me send him the mic. And can you, Dr. Miguna, can you hear Hillary as I bring on Dr. Kigame?
I can't hear Hillary.
Okay, Hillary. Dr. cannot hear you, but if you leave, the space is gonna drop. Let me see. Let me text you and see how we can proceed with this.
Dr. can drop, then come back. I think maybe that can work.
Okay, that's also possible. But Ruben Kigame, we would like to hear from you. Please pick the mic. Let me send you the mic. And so, as we continue, there's somebody has requested me to ask, because there's a breaking news that Sakaja states that the demonstrations are not going to go on in Nairobi tomorrow. Is this because they have a flyer and then they have an Citizen TV logo on it? Please, let's take the next 5 minutes to confirm if that is true before we have somebody comment on it. Hillary, who is next?
Let's hear that. Mwangi, are you here? Mwangi, Nyaradwen, go ahead. Nyaradwen?
Thank you, Hillary, and everyone today on this space. My question, yes, I can see Dr. here. My question was to Dr. Miguna. Dr. I'm happy we are with you today. And we have realized that this war is not only about us. There are infights within the same government. And as our protest has always been peaceful, and I insist we have always been peaceful. Nobody is going to convince me otherwise, because I saw policemen shoot at shops with live rounds. So it is the police. And then there was also some people that came in later, and apparently these people had weapons. But I am sure those people are not Gen Zs. Now, to Dr. For the sake of protecting ourselves, because myself, I'll have to be on the ground tomorrow. For the sake of protecting ourselves and our young people, there is this infight that is going on between the president and his deputy, and also other people involved, I don't know. And you realize there are chances that maybe these other people, civilians with crude weapons, are sponsored. Right now, I'm seeing something going around on the social media. During 2023 finance bill or cost of living protest, They called themselves Nairobi Business Community. Today, they're calling themselves Nairobi Youth Business Community. And these are the same people who unleash war on I call it war on innocent citizens. Now, is there a way? Is there, being somebody who's on the know-how, is there a way we can identify ourselves without having been the target? Dr. Ari, thank you. I'll drop my speaker so you can have somebody else.
Thank you. Yeah, please go on.
Yes, thank you. Nyaradwen, I understand what you are saying. Yes, we do have a problem, which normally in political science they basically call elite fracture. So there are divisions within the executive, but that should not concern us. Those are their own problems. We should not care about their problems, and we should not focus on their problems. The people that were sponsored, the people that came with weapons, were sponsored by the same government. I believe these people were Farouk sponsored, they were Oscar Sudi sponsored, they were Ruto sponsored. I think they are using Rigathi Gachagua as a red herring. Rigathi Gachagua is not part of the protests, so they cannot bring him in. He's part of them. He's Ruto's deputy. He appointed him, and he's in government, and he's part of the problem. So let us not be diverted. I think that if we are all dressed the same, it's difficult because it's quite a large number, and some people don't have the ability to make T-shirts or to buy. But if we can, I think that dressing in white and black and green were the three colors that were chosen. And for people who can carry the flag, water, everybody should carry water if they can, because it helps with the tear gas. And then just stay together. Don't spread out. Spreading out opens up those who spread out as easy targets of attack. Because once you are alone, that's how they cornered Rex. Once they find you alone on the street, they can shoot you and there is no accountability. Nobody's taking pictures. Nobody can come to your aid. So as much as possible, let us be together, and let us be together in huge numbers that they cannot confront. Ruto is weak and down. Yes, they say that he's lethal when he's down, but I can assure you right now, Ruto is defanged. He has no poison, he has no teeth. He has to go with this entire regime.
Thank you so much, Dr. Terry. And another thing, and that was a very good question there. Another thing that I hear people speak about on the streets a lot is that, the division that Yaradwed is expressing now, that, they could be fighting each other, which doesn't appear to make sense because, as Dr. Terry rightly says, they're one team. So constitutionally, if one resigns, the other has to go with it. So I think that idea of letting citizens think that they're fighting each other is just a propaganda there to try to bring in the tribe issue again, and just to just bring in divisive aspects into the conversation. Godfather. Godfather.
Godfather, your
Thank
turn.
you. Thank you, Madge. Thank you, Hillary, Madge, the co-host, Kingsman, and our key speaker, the General, Dr. Miguna Miguna, the speakers that have already given their views so far, as well as those who are going to give, and our honorable listeners. This is a very important conversation, and I just wanted to retaliate that this is the week, and as the General stated, the only option is to march forward to put more pressure, to apply pressure so that we can have the government go home in entirety. So we are trying to look into that. But as we look at that, the issues that are coming up, and these will be playing at on the ground tomorrow, are the magic of numbers. How then do we stick together if the tear gas comes? Nyaragden will be, for instance, will be on the ground. Tear gas may likely disperse the populace. So is there any scientific way of trying to control the crowd so that they remain in numbers, so that we can try to reduce the numbers of the fatalities and the injured by the police? Because that is something that is still a concern, as much as we must march forward. That is the first part. The second part: how can we document the atrocities that are being committed by the police? Because eventually we need to hold them accountable after the fact. Because we've seen, for instance, yesterday's interview of Mr. Ruto, in our State House. He doesn't seem to understand what's going on. He seems to be living in a different world altogether. He doesn't have the empathy, even when we talk about a child has been shot over 7 times or 8 times. His response is, isn't he alive? These are some of the issues we're looking at. So, we're looking at someone who we must get out of power by all means possible. And we expect that they're also likely to use a lot of force. So how do we document these atrocities that are likely to be committed by the police and other criminals, so that we can try and also hold them accountable after the fact, apart from the citizen journalism, which I believe most of them will be having smartphones to try and record this. But we see them, they have the advantage of having the CCTV cameras to try and get the looters. But how do we also hold them accountable moving forward? Thank you. Thank you, Maj.
Thank you so much, Godfather. Kingsman, go.
Maj, maybe just to contribute on the issue that is going around about the rift between the president and his deputy. I think that is their problem as KK. And even from my tweets, I've kept on saying that whether, I saw the deputy president saying that his sons didn't approve him supporting the deputy president, then I think those are elite issues and they are not our issues. So whether they already, as a people, we have said we are tired with the KK. So if there is a rift between them, then it is, when they are divided, the easier they fall. So it is better for us as a unit that they keep on having infights, because when they are divided, then it is easier for us to attack. So for me, let's not give airtime to this, because it's just a diversionary tactic that they are trying to. I don't think if these two, they know a lot about each other that they cannot let go at this point in time. So my sentiment is, let's not try to give oxygen or life to the sentiments that they are having between them. They are deputy, and that is their own issue. Our issue is about tomorrow, about Occupy. It's about our issues as a people united together as 57 million of us. So hata wakiamua sahii waenda wakulane mangumi huko State House Road, walimane. That is none of our, wapigane, whatever their problem is, we don't give a hoot. So let's focus on the cause. And the cause is about us being on the road tomorrow, in the streets, everywhere in this country, marching peacefully, 10 million of us.
Thank you, Kingsman. Thank you so much. Frederick, go ahead. Frederick, then young adults, then Deborah, on that order.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to host and the host and our guest speaker. Mine goes to the general. The citizens are not rebellious and they are not armed, but they have a second layer of safety net, which is courts. And courts have given direct court orders that police should not use tear gas, should not abduct people, but they continue doing so. As citizens, or as the courts, what should now the courts do or judges do to ensure that citizens are protected? Because these orders are given, no one takes them seriously. They are just treated as paper. So what should citizens do? Because there are no arms for them. Should now courts pronounce themselves and say that now also we are downing our tools so that they can be able to protect citizens, to ensure that these court orders have some effect. Thank you.
So I can answer that if you allow me.
Go ahead, Dr.
Hillary.
Yeah, Mike, tell him to go ahead.
Can you
I
hear
think he's
me?
not.
Is everybody hearing me?
Daktari, go ahead. Daktari, go ahead.
Okay,
Can you
so
proceed? Yeah.
the short answer, my friend, I start with the last question. The short answer is the courts don't have the power to enforce their own orders, because their orders are supposed to be enforced by the police, the same police that are using tear gas, that are assaulting, that are maiming, that are abducting, that are torturing and killing innocent Kenyans. If you recall, in not so long a time, I had 35 court orders, both in uniform and in civilian clothing, which means that we go back to what we were saying from yesterday, and I've been saying consistently on my part for years now. The power is in our hands. Ultimately, we have resorted back to the default, which is clause 1 of the Constitution. The sovereignty is now vested in us, and it's up to us to enforce all the laws that should have been enforced by the police. But of course, we don't have weapons, and we are doing so peacefully. And that's all we have to continue doing. But to do that effectively requires that we show up in large numbers. That's the only way to do so effectively. Essentially, to occupy all the spaces. And if and when we do, because I don't think that it's been done as effective as we can, then there will be no tear gas. The police will be rendered impotent. There is no police that can throw tear gas to 10 million people in the CBD, for example. That would be suicide. So they won't do it. So the next question was, with respect to, I don't know if it was the fact that they have weapons and we don't, or they can come with weapons and we don't. And I think my answer still remains the same, that if we are 10 million strong, that they won't be able to do that. I think that is where we are. That is what we have to emphasize, that everything relies on the turnout. And if we remain peaceful and people can see a regime shooting at peaceful protesters, the regime loses credibility and legitimacy. Regime falls on its own weight. Even the UN, and we do have people supporting us from all the way from the UN and many of these governments right now, they will denounce the government. It will be a pariah regime, and it will be subject to indictment, and their leaders will be subject to prosecution in many jurisdictions. There are other things that are happening that I will not disclose, but there are other things we are doing. There are other things we must do. So those who work for international organizations that are here and are listening, you know what to do. Those who are practicing law internationally, you know what to do. Many of them are aware of what happened to Pinochet in Spain. Pinochet was the biggest dictator and tyrant in the 1980s and early 90s. And a small magistrate in a small town in Spain arrested Pinochet in Spain. And that was the end. So don't think that Ruto is above the law internationally. He is not, and he knows that. And we are going to deal with him perpendicularly, both in Kenya and abroad. Be assured of that. We are not resting, we are not sleeping, and we will not let him go free. We brought down Moi, and he had to accept to bring multipartyism after 24 years. What is Ruto with less than 2 years? So there should be no fear. Some of us don't fear Ruto. I have to disclose, because this I did not disclose yesterday. I have spoken with Ruto myself 4 separate times about tracking, locating, and repatriating money that was stolen by Uhuru Kenyatta and stashed abroad. Because some of us have traced the money, we know where the money is. We know how much it is. And I have told them, this money is more than enough to wipe out the debt that you are complaining about and put Kenya on a trajectory of becoming a first world. And William Ruto has never reverted back to me. He told me once to put it in writing, and I did, and he never responded. So this is not a person we can give a pass. This is not a person we can excuse anymore. Instead of overtaxing Kenyans, we have told him what the solution is. We know where the money is. We know it is in its trillions. We know what the debt of Kenya is. We know this money is capable of wiping the debt and developing Kenya, and you don't have to tax anyone. Not to the level that he's trying to do. And he has refused to do it. Instead, he goes behind our back, cuts deals with people like Matiang'i so that he gets his cut, so that he can bank it in Dubai and other places. We know what they are doing. So I want us to be very, very clear. William Ruto is not capable of being reformed. Thank you.
Daktari, on that same note, I've had a problem about this thing called odious debt. We are being told we owe trillions of billions in terms of dollars. That is like external debt from IMF, from I don't know where. Is it possible we audit everything and then we know the real debt that has been used in development? Because I understand our constitution says that a debt, an external debt, should only be used for development projects, only and only then. There's a Eurobond that came in and it never go to Nairobi. We do not know the whereabouts of that money. I saw the interest mature the other day. I think they paid around 165 billion not long ago. So when we are able to do this, and now Ruto is out of the equation. Daktari, can we get this IMF and everyone, and even ask them if you know the Kenyan constitution, because ignorance is not a defense before a court of law.
But
if they knew,
my brother, to cut the long story short, let us not put the cart before the horse. Right now, we should focus on mobilizing and making sure people are safe. And I have said safety is in our numbers. Before we deal with the details of auditing the debt, you will not be able to get the records and be able to record competently until they're out of power. So our agenda right now is to remove Ruto. Then we can do all those other things. Because they have not disclosed this information in a credible manner. For example, they are saying they paid debt, this amount, this amount. Have you seen the evidence of payment of debt? No, we haven't. They have not published it. They have not shown us the transactions. Another thing is there is money that they have been collecting from, let's say, unclaimed assets, people who just stole money and they are unclaimed, or money that have been repatriated from people that stole, let's say, Chicken Gate. This guy's, the money was supposed to have been returned from London, England. We have not seen any evidence of that money, where it went, or even this money that EACC says it keeps recouping or recovering from thieves, or cutting deals and saying that they have gotten 100 or 200, 235 million or whatever, and they have recovered from this or that person. We have not seen any record of any of that. So there is a lot of issues, but we don't want to be lost in all those details. We have to be focused on the superstructure. The superstructure is the dissolution of government, and then the process of reconstituting a new dispensation, a new state, a new republic, so that we can start afresh. Kenya is not an independent state. Kenya is still a colonial state, and Ruto is a puppet of the West. Everything he does on behalf of Washington first and foremost, then London, then the other capitals. Kenya comes, if at all, in the footnotes. You saw it when he spoke yesterday. He couldn't even acknowledge 8 bullets on a miner. He couldn't acknowledge the boy who was killed in Rongai for no reason. He couldn't even acknowledge that. He couldn't acknowledge 24 bodies at the morgue that the Kenya National Commission of Human Rights confirmed they have seen. He got into an argument over that, then got personal with Linus Kaikai over an issue that we know is so personal, and it involves a woman in the 1990s. Ruto is not a leader. Ruto is not a legitimate president and cannot govern. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr.
Thank you so much.
Can I go
over.
briefly, Dr.
Who's speaking? Benji, I'll give you the mic in a few. So I just wanted to say that there are 2 people who have
Dr.
messaged
Can
me.
I go briefly?
Benji, can you hear
Benji,
me?
please put your hand up. Put your hand up if you want
Paul.
to speak. There are a lot of people who are on the queue, and then you will be given the mic.
So as I was saying, there are 2 people who have messaged me now. One of them is requesting Kenyans in Kenya to use VPN while spacing. And another one, I just said, he's from the candle lighting event of one of the fallen heroes. So he will add him to the mic, and then he can also share about that. Hilary, you'd queued in Deborah, right?
She can
Deborah,
go ahead.
go.
Can go ahead.
Thank you, Hillary and Marge, for this. I just want to also add a sentiment on the infighting within the government. To me, I think it's a good cop, bad cop. So one cop is a good cop and the other one is a bad cop. So we should not have any side shows with that. That's their own problem. Now, a question that I have for Dr. Miguna. We watched when Keter was being abducted. What can the citizen do? Because people were there videotaping. There were cars also there. Could also citizens stop this arrest? You jump, when they have the car, all the citizens jump and say you cannot do this. Or is that dangerous? That's number one, a question for Miguna. Another thing I also want to say, this year is election year in the United States. We need to bombard the State Department with emails, with Twitter, with pictures of the people who have been killed, with pictures of the demo, and also tagging Secretary of State Antony Blinken. Also Biden, they read these things. They want to be in the good books because in November, there's election. So we have an opportune time. Let's put pressure everywhere that we can and tell them what you're doing is wrong. You need to denounce this. You need to denounce people who are being killed on the streets. So that's also how we can put pressure. So thank you very much, and also condolences to the people who've lost their lives.
Thanks, Deborah. And now we move to academia. And Dr. you can chime in anytime. Academia, 2 minutes, please.
Thank you very much. My 2 minutes. I think the system is rotten to the core, and anything that they are doing, the only option we have is to remove the regime completely. And because, again, you need the state to protect you, and the same state is against you. So what do? You get it out of your way, and then get a state that can protect or can work in the interest of the common man or the interest of the country. So I think that's the most important thing. Secondly, I urge people to turn in large numbers, as Dr. Miguna said. And this Dr. Miguna said long time ago. I used to watch him when I was there, I think first year or second year at the university, on NTV. He used to say that the only way that we can get Kenya on the right road is to complete overhaul of the system. And this is the time that we have to use. Otherwise, if we go into the judiciary and all those things, there's a lot of things that happen in judiciary. And therefore, the main focus that we should do now, how do we get the rotten regime out of our way? That is the big question that we have, because we only have one thing to do. One question, how do we get this government out? That is one fundamental thing that we need to do. So everything should revolve around the best way, constitutionally or democratically, whichever way, we can get this government out so that we get what can work for us, because it doesn't work for us. It has never worked for the common man. So this is an installation that was put in place to serve the interest of politicians or politics or other people's interest, not the citizens' interest. As I end, I want to say that there is the first article in the Constitution talks about the power of people and shall be exercised in accordance with the same Constitution that we gave ourselves and the governing authority to exercise everything. But we retain the absolute power. So we are now going direct to govern ourselves directly. So indirectly or directly. But the first thing comes is you may exercise it directly before indirectly. So what does that mean? It means that it recognizes that the power belongs to the citizens first before we delegate it to any other person. So let us use that. There is no any other article that comes above Article 1, and that Article 1 recognizes the power of people. So any other question should revolve around the sovereign power that belongs to people, period. Anything we are not going to listen to. We are going to use that and get our country back on the track. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Academia. Hillary, go.
I wanted to intervene just briefly,
Okay.
please. Yeah. So, Maj, there was a question that was asked of me about, and it is an important question. What do we do if we are in the situation that Keter found himself in, being abducted on the street? You saw people standing by and whatnot. I think the Keter question, if I address it directly, the people who were standing did the right thing. They recorded what is happening. They gave it to, and then there was public pressure. Then Keter got released the same day. That is what should be done when you are not enough. They were not enough. They could not have fought with those men with guns. And they were just like 2 or 3 or 4. So if you are not enough, the best course of action is to record and then disseminate the information. However, Like in the case that I gave the example yesterday, where they came and wanted to abduct me from the Intercon on the 30th of June 2018, when on my way to go to Uhuru Park in order to swear Raila in. I called in the NRM troops from Uhuru Park who surrounded the hotel, the Intercon, and prevented the abduction. So if you can get enough people to surround the abductors, you can prevent the abduction. Plus, you record it at the same time. However, if you find yourself in a situation like I found myself in, on the 2nd of February 2018, when they came at 3:30 a.m. in the morning in the darkness, hiding in darkness, broke through my gate, blew through my door, and then wanted to abduct me, the only thing you can do is send messages to people who can then they shot them with tear gas and almost, I think, injured quite a number of people and still abducted me. Because if we are a million plus, they cannot abduct anybody. They cannot shoot at anybody. They will not be able to do anything. We will overpower them by our sheer numbers, even if unharmed. So really, that is the strategy. It is the simplest, it is the most effective. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Harry. Would you rather we go one by one, or I take like three speakers and then you respond, Dr. Harry? Would you prefer?
I think three or four would be better.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them just want to make comments, so they can go ahead.
Okay.
So that we can go quickly.
Okay, fine. Hamix and then Samuel and Okombo in that order.
Hi everyone, are you guys able to hear me?
Loud and clear.
Yeah, you're good.
2 minutes
Thank you
each,
very
please.
much. Okay, thank you very much. So my points are very clear. I just want to make some commentary. And Dr. Miguna, you have no idea what you're doing to this movement. You're really emboldening us. I joined the space yesterday and I heard everything. You are very objective, the things that we need to do. We need to be very objective, and that really sparked a fire in me. And then there's this video that has been going rounds, I don't know, by some young guy on the streets who was, that video spoke to me, and I just felt like I need to be on the streets tomorrow. And for the first time I was like, I'm not even afraid to die, because there is strength in our numbers, and that is something that we really need to do. We need to turn up in large numbers, because if we give Ruto a chance, he's gonna come and finish us all. And one thing I also want to say is about, let's not buy into this government propaganda. I think government is using old tactics to, try and solve, emerging issues, which is not going to work. So we already know their old tactics, which are already washed out. They're trying to sell us fear, telling us the military is on the streets. But I'm so happy that people are still going to turn up. They're trying to create a lot of misinformation and propaganda just to cause a lot of fear. They're still going to, they're still abducting people. So they're abducting people. You see what they did to Gabby, they did to Shadi. These are people who are very vocal, like Gabriel Oguda kept us very entertained on the internet, but we haven't seen him. But you see, these were the Twitter giants, but at the same time, just because they're not vocal at this time, there's other people who've come up. So if I know the government is here, the NIS is here, and they're listening, I just want to let them know that you can abduct 1 million of us, but there's still 1 million of others who are going to come up. I mean, the cells, the abductions, your Subarus are not going to be enough for to accommodate all of us. So those are the things I just want to say. And also, just this is a formal request to Dr. Miguna to just ask him to unblock me because the reason why he blocked me is because we disagreed on Ruto. So I guess we are on the same side at this moment. So Dr. Miguna, kindly unblock me. I really would love to, feed from your knowledge, and just your voice is very, you're strong, and you have no idea what that is doing to the rest of us, even the ones who are afraid of going to the streets. That is something that is really emboldening us. But thanks for holding
So if somebody
this
could
space.
text me your handle, because I don't see you, I don't know what your handle is. That would be helpful.
Yeah.
Hillary,
Okay.
I will
Hillary,
do that.
please
No,
text
just text
Dr.
me.
Let's have
Miguna
that
my
Yeah,
sorted on the side, Hamid.
yeah,
We've had
okay,
you.
thank you.
Thank you. Hillary is gonna do that, and so of course I've also had to unblock a few people so that they can participate. But if unblocked, there's a reason why you were blocked. So if unblocked, please don't continue the tirades of insult, because we're all human beings, and I think we have a right to also decide if we want to keep off negative negativity out there.
And remind them to follow each other much. Remind them to follow each other. Yes. Okay. As we go on,
Yes,
who's coming
and
in?
it's very important because now we want to be disseminating information, and so build the network by following each other. The co-hosts, the speakers, look left and right and follow each other. Now, next, just 2 minutes each. I think the combo, you're next, and then Nelson. Okombo, can you hear me? Then Nelson, take a go.
I think
Hi,
Benji
Maj.
also wanted to speak. I think you should allow him to speak.
Yes, I cannot see him.
Okay,
I tried
okay.
to text him. I cannot see him. Nelson, speak as I try to get Benji on.
All right. Mine is not a question because Dr. Miguna has gone through so much and has explained
I think
extensively our action plan, and I allowed him for that. And thank you for being here because you have been in this fight for a long time and you have experience which most of us do not have because we are either Gen Zs or millennials, but we have the energy and the courage and the bravery to continue the fight. So thank you for leading the way and showing us, what to do. It's very much needed. My comment is going to be this. What we are experiencing right now in Kenya is referred to as a critical juncture. And critical junctures in history have been the turning point of many countries. There was critical junctures that made industrial revolution possible in England. There was critical junctures in America that made slave trade to end. So and right now Kenya, we are at this point, and it is so important that we use this critical juncture to move our country to the right direction. And as Dr. Miguna says, this is the right opportunity to reboot the country. It's actually the right opportunity to reboot the system because we have been subjected to a critical juncture where it's like a crossroad. We either go the way we are used to, or we change, we make a complete U-turn. And the whole country is ready for that. It's exactly what we saw in other countries when they had this exact moment, like what we have today. So it's very important for us to seize this moment and to actually change our entire system and lead our country to prosperity so that Africa can, we can lead Africa and Africa can follow suit. Also, what I wanted to say is that those people who are fearing that Ruto will shoot people like he has been ordering, like we saw the ex-military guy shooting at protesters at parliament. I just want to tell you that this small push that we have made in the last 2 weeks has made Ruto to be so scared. He withdrew the finance bill. He withdrew the land amendment bill. He has said on record yesterday that he will withdraw the funding to the wives of Kinam Davadi and those first ladies and all that. Only this pressure has made this change that we have seen. Though it's small, but you can see that what we are doing is not something that is going to waste. So even as we go towards Ruto must go, just know that it's gonna happen. And this critical juncture is not an isolated case. It is something that has happened in different countries around the world. And the countries that they took it in the right way, they actually changed, and it changed their history completely, and they became first world countries. So I just want to encourage everyone. And do not think that just because we are in the diaspora, that's why we are beating the drums of war. No, it's because we have, we love our country. Like for me, I'm in Europe. Every day I walk in the streets, I see how the roads are made, even in the villages, the systems are working. And I'm like, why can't we be like this? This is the moment to make our country to be like that, so that Ruto does not have to send our sons and daughters to Saudi Arabia to become slaves and to be paid minimum wage, because no one in these countries will pay you like they pay themselves. They will pay you minimum wage. And it's even lower than minimum wage, because I saw Ruto was saying some people will be paid $1,500. That's below minimum wage in most countries, like in Europe, in Saudi Arabia. In Saudi Arabia, the salaries are even 10 times higher than in Europe. So if you're being paid $1,500, this is you're a slave. You're a slave. So Ruto is sending Kenyans to become slaves in these countries.
Okay.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Nelson. And can we please try to stick to 2 minutes each? And Benji,
Would you please give me a chance to speak? Because you gave me a chance, but the mic seems there was a problem.
okay, there's a lot of mic issues.
But I think as much as they come back, they need to raise their hands so that
So
you can let us
Tabitha and
talk.
then Paul, and 2 minutes each. So that let me explain. Once you 1 minute is over, I'm going to raise my hand, and then that means you only have 1 minute to go. So once you start speaking, kindly check on my profile, at least for time orientation, because there are many people who are waiting. And let me try to add Benji again. I don't know what's wrong with his handle. He dropped again. Tabitha and then Paul. No, there was Wakili. Tabitha and then MC Wakili. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Marge. I hope you can hear me all.
Can you hear you, Tabi?
Yes,
Yeah, go ahead.
Kutu. I come from Sierra County. I am so happy that at such a point we are having a conversation that is creating change and is going to create impact in what you like to see in terms of governance and how things should run in Kenya. I have a question to Dr. Miguna. On Thursday last week, I was preparing to host a summit for the youth in Sia County. And I was, as I was going through the town, and there was the protest by the youth in our county, and I witnessed a shooting of one youth by the police in Sia town, as one person who was trying to ask questions of why would you shoot a young person who's really protesting about the very hard situation of life. And the youth was just crying that they have graduated, they don't have employment. And the police ganged up, and the people who surrounded me were saying that there had to be one person to die for the youth to calm down and try to do these things in an orderly way. So as a person who felt agitated, what can I really do? Because I really feel that if it is not addressed, then many other youth are in the process, even in the next protests, are going to have this kind of fatalities. They're going to perhaps be shot dead again. And yet what they're asking for, and what we are really asking for as the young people, is a transformative way of governance and
and our issues to be heard. So how do we move from here? And what is the role of the general community? Because I believe that we have a role to play. So how do you deal with such a situation where others feel like it's vindicated or it's okay that the police had to use one youth so that other youths could stop being rowdy as they claim? How do you deal with this? Thank you so much, Tabitha. Maybe Benji can go and then Dr. Harry will answer those questions. Benji, over to you.
Much obliged. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Dr. Miguna, my friend. I just want to express my deep disappointment.
Is it talking really much? Nobody's speaking.
No, Benji is speaking, but I think somebody is tampering with your mic as the host. But you cannot drop it because if you drop, you're gonna the whole space is gonna drop. He is indeed speaking. I'll text you what you can do. But Benji, please proceed.
All right.
Yes,
Right.
madam. I was just saying that I'm deeply disappointed and, to be honest, extremely concerned. Here is a country in a deep crisis of the president's own making. We have now, for more than 2 weeks, just been completely inside of a revolution. We are on international news in every channel. Al Jazeera have done a documentary. Unarmed youth are being shot. Parliament has been banned. The Chief Justice's office has been banned. Ruto gave an interview yesterday. It is now 24 hours. Ruto seems paralyzed and trapped. I don't understand what his problem is, because it is obvious even to a child that from the beginning we had issues at vetting of the cabinet, at selection of such nominated parliamentarians as Karen Nyamu. The finance bill, even from things like not just adding taxes on pampers and whatnot, but even adding taxes on wheelchairs. You know, Ruto pretty much doubled the price of gasoline. The G2G model was actually my initial suggestion at TV47. I just don't understand. Is Ruto under siege himself? Because 24 hours later, he's literally unable to say, okay, Njuguna Ndungu drafted this thing. We obviously have issues with Midika Linturi because of the fertilizer, etc., etc., etc. What is the problem? Why can't he do anything at all? Maybe Miguna can help. And I'm sure Dr. Miguna will explain that this is impunity. But especially for those of us who supported him, because this was not the agreement. This is not why we helped the deputy president then. So this is just a concern I wanted to express. And then secondly, the behavior of the police. And maybe if I could just, I'm able to get a lot of, sourcing and whatnot. So it's very difficult now to massacre Kenyans. So this is actually, last week was the safest, to take an action and get first. And then secondly, the behavior regime change in effect. It's very difficult to massacre. The Pope has called, the UN has written, Anthony Blinken has written. There's a lot of, this is like everything he had cultivated on this image has just been lost overnight. So to massacre is very difficult. Maybe lastly, the last concern I would like to especially express to constitutional lawyers like Miguna and just people who are active citizens out here like myself and others, Cheretich and whatnot, is if he goes, which it looks like he will, let us really have a strong voice fresh. We have problems at every level, but the good news is that they're solvable problems. Those of us who've been activists for a long time, we've been talking this language for years. We've been talking, Miguna's been talking this language for years, certainly myself. You can just go and search tweets and see. And so just to see the whole country on this page, and I have a Somali neighbor who's in the demos tomorrow. Actually, let me put it this way: I don't know anyone who is not going to demonstrations, and it just feels like we're living in another world. And the president brought this upon himself. He is still, I don't know, is he under siege? What is he waiting for? It's just unbelievable. But let's keep being the voices of reason. Fear has no factor in really anything. I mean, someone just dies once. And a successful country, as the guys in diaspora are saying, you travel out and you see, and you live out there and you see what highways look like, and what a city council looks like, and what a governor should be like, what a senator should be. And then you run into someone like Kimani Kuria and all these guys. I mean, Moses Kuria asked us, Chimba Kisimayako, when they are adding fuel. This is unforgivable. This is unforgivable. And so some of us were really happy that finally Kenyans are angry enough and we cannot all be dismissed as keyboard warriors. Thanks and God bless everybody. God bless Kenya. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Benji. I think Dr. will take over. Kingsman, not unless you want to say something briefly before it.
Yeah, I just wanted to put something across what was Benji was asking. I think Benji Daktari has already said that. You see, we've already rolled. So the aim here is first to get this person out of. He needs to go, and I think today we are exercising our power directly as a people. If you see on the comment side, we've put on Article 1 of our Constitution, and then they have said that there are two ways in which we can exercise our power as the people. That is through the elected members, that is the national government and then the county government. And then we can also exercise our power directly. So that is the course. I believe all of us are on the same page. So first of all is tomorrow we're exercising our power as a people, legally, constitutionally, to ensure that Ruto goes. After Ruto goes, then these other things will just come later. As someone said earlier, we are on a juncture moment. This is an historical moment. These are 1963, 1964 moments.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I will start with what Deborah was commenting on regarding bombarding for people who are in the diaspora or people who are capable of reaching the puppet controllers, the puppet owners in the Western Hemisphere. This is exactly what I said yesterday. I said, if you can reach them by email, do so. If you can reach them by phone, do so. Bombard them completely. And as I said earlier today, if you are capable of drafting petitions or drafting any instrument for purposes of bringing them and also Ruto to account anywhere in the world, go ahead and do so. We encourage you strongly to do so. It's quite effective. If you are capable of picketing or demonstrating for those who are in the diaspora, in Washington and other places, do so. Make sure the world hears you. To my friend Benji, the problem is Ruto. The problem is not his advisors. The problem are not his employees or anybody else. There was a time I spoke with a friend of his and a confidant of his. And I asked, what is the problem? Why would Ruto hire this kind of people? Why would Ruto hire Mithika Linturi or Aisha Jumwa or Moses Kuria or any of these dunderheads that would not be able to write their names on a full scale? Some of them are so drunk 24 hours that they wouldn't be able to do anything, even in the offices. And the guy told me, I asked him the same question, particularly when he appointed so and so. I'm not going to say the name, but the appointment was so ridiculous. And Ruto looked up to him and told him, first of all, who appointed you my advisor? Essentially saying, you're my friend, but you're not my advisor. Secondly, who told you I appointed them to work? In other words, Ruto says he's the only one who is supposed to do everything, and these people are supposed to be puppeteers who follow his direction. So whatever has happened, he has directed. Whatever has gone wrong, he has approved, authorized, and directed. He is the problem. He thinks he knows everything and he knows squat. He thinks that Kenya is a chicken coop that he can micromanage. A country is too big, too complex to be micromanaged by an individual who does not know his left from his right to begin with. Being eloquent is not knowledge, and we must disabuse him of this. A country, even if you are the most intelligent, you wouldn't have enough hours to be able to dispense your knowledge on every sector in every sphere. So Ruto is the problem. And then the regime he put in place must fall with him because he brought them up and they have failed us. So I believe I'm answering Benji in a way that we are dealing with a psychopath. We are dealing with I wouldn't even call him a demagogue. He's worse than a demagogue. There is no English word to describe Ruto right now. He has metamorphosed into something too dangerous, too complicated to be understood even by Ruto himself, as we could see when he was being interviewed. So we are past redemption. We are into reconstruction, replacement, and punishment. Unless he decides on his own just to go into exile, in which case we can also bring him back. But as it is right now, he should resign, apologize to the Kenyan people, and maybe we may forgive him after he has brought back all the money that he has looted. But there should be no reverse gear. We are moving forward. Ruto has violated so many provisions of the Constitution, starting with the Chapter 6, integrity. The integrity provisions have been peed on and defecated on. And there is nothing that we are going to do about it unless we remove him. And he's not capable of cleaning himself. So the scandals are too many to enumerate. They happen every day, and it is almost as if he does it so that you wouldn't know where to start. Because would you really start with the fake fertilizer? Or would you start with the scandal about edible oils? Or would you start with the housing levy? Or would you start with the 700 million for every infrastructural development, 700 billion for every infrastructural development that they have so that they can steal? Or should we start with Farouk and his thugs or Oscar Sudi? What is it? There are too many to enumerate. His foreign policy is in complete chaos. He's the only African leader supporting the genocide in Palestine. Like, that's just not forgivable. He's the only one supporting the genocide in Sudan. He supports Hemdet, who leads the Janjaweeds in Sudan, because Hemdet gives him access to the gold deposits in Sudan. I mean, we can go on and on. Ruto is irredeemable.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I can hear you, Kumukeni. I can hear you. I can hear you very well. I don't know who's coming next. We have Maura, we have Mwok,
Can I just,
Miriam.
I just want to,
You can hear me?
real quick, Hillary, because
Okay, go
it
ahead.
seems like we are beating this horse that is already dead. We've all agreed we're going to go take Ruto out. So I don't see how productive it is for us to continue talking about getting Ruto out when we've all agreed. So
Right.
and it keeps to be
it keeps being pushed away, but this is a conversation that must be had. What is the way forward? We are having these rooms. It is best to use them for that, so that if there are skilled people in these rooms, they can start coordinating and organizing for that purpose. The other thing, too, that's not being addressed is the white elephant, the huge, no pun intended, white elephant of foreign interference that is not being addressed and keeps being pushed away when it is a very important factor in building a secure and sovereign nation moving forward. So please, if we can move the conversation towards those two things. Asante.
But Madam Host, I thought we dealt with the way forward yesterday, and I thought we generally agreed. I'm not sure what the problem is, unless somebody has another
I
idea.
can confirm your position, Dr. Miguna
No, no,
Miguna,
no,
you're right on this.
but I've not had any contrary position.
Then let's have a briefing of it. Why don't we have a briefing for those who didn't hear? Because clearly I didn't hear it. Let's have a briefing. What hurts in us
Okay,
having a briefing?
were you here yesterday?
I didn't hear a way forward yesterday.
There was a comprehensive way forward yesterday, and it's even on my X handle. Really, if we are going to go back on what we discussed yesterday, we will not be able to move ahead.
So here is my
I've
quick
even
question.
published, let me finish. I've published a 2-page document, which is on my handle, summarizing what we discussed yesterday.
I understand that, but it
Right.
still does not address the issue of foreign interference. I have listened to you, I have read it, it's still not addressing that. In fact, we continue to talk about let's do protests, let's force these foreign entities to. These foreign entities are intentionally doing this to us, so there's no going to ask.
No. I think you are taking us back. Let me address
No, I'm
that
not.
once and for all today.
Hold on. Please, Madge.
Kumbukeni, no. With all due respect, thank you, Hillary, for taking charge. Let us not divert. If you want to talk about foreign interference completely, we can have a space for that. Miguna was invited for this, and let's keep to the topic. I know that there are people who have different agendas, and they want to push them at all costs. This is not the place for it. Create a space, invite us, we're going to come to discuss that topic, in accordance to our priorities also. That was an issue that was also raised here yesterday. Dr. Miguna talked about it. And yesterday, the space was exclusively about the way forward, which Dr. Miguna actually intensively explained and has, as he says now, also put up documentation. If you have other agendas to all the speakers here that you want to fuel, please go ahead. It's a free world. Just don't do it in this space.
Madge,
Yes.
Madge, let me put that question to rest. And I'm sorry we have to do it, but we're going to do some of these things over and over again. You're not going to address foreign or intervention or foreign interference if you're not in charge of your government. If the foreigners have captured your government and it becomes their puppet, the only recourse you have as an intelligent human being is to replace the puppet. You're not going to be able to deal with a foreigner you have no access to that is interfering with a third party you have control over. You deal with the agent or your employee you have control over. You fire him or her. And that's what we are doing. The moment we fire Ruto, which is what we are doing tomorrow, then that foreign interest or the interference will end. Because then we make sure that we don't get it anymore. We deal with the issues. The logistics of dealing with management of our foreign affairs or dealing with affairs of state will of doing that people can present on the table. How do we get to the CBD, for example? That's a good question. Where do we congregate? What do we chant? Do we go to State House? These are things that people can talk about. How about people in other places like Mombasa, Malindi, Mandera? Which spheres, which public spaces should we occupy? These are things we can discuss and agree on. Yes, they will pour the police there, but if we are there in our numbers, the police will not be able to do anything. Thank you much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ray. And now we move to Maura and then Mariam Rose in that order. 2 minutes each, please. Mook, I saw you. I skipped you. You go right directly after Miriam and then Abdi and then Dr. Ray will answer your questions. Over to you, Maura.
Okay, thank you, Maj. Thank you for the space and thank you, Henry. I just have one question to Dr. It is somehow a constitutional question. Now, I knew before the 2010 constitution came into place, the president could dissolve the parliament, that he could fire the vice president, but that one is no longer possible in the new constitution. Now, Dr. Miguna, does the current constitution of 2010 envision a situation whereby, like now, we want to remove Ruto, and then he has to resign and his government has to resign? Is there an article that can take care of that? And the reason is this. If now tomorrow, if Ruto gets the heat too much and he resigns, what happens next? Who dissolve the parliament, the cabinet he can dissolve, but who dissolve the parliament and the governors and such? And what does the constitution say about that? Can you try to clear that to clear that one for me, Dr. Miguna? Because I know about the old constitution, but for this one, I don't know whether that's a situation. The constitution revision is such a situation. Thank you, Dr.
I'll jump in quickly.
Okay.
Clause 1 of the Constitution gives the citizens of Kenya power to take power and exercise it directly from their elected representatives, whom they have donated power to under the Constitution. So, which means the people can say Ruto and his entire government are fired and they should tender in their resignation. Or they can say you have deemed that they have already resigned when you occupy these public spaces and say nothing will go on, there will be no government until they vacate your offices. Those are our offices. State House is ours, not Ruto's. Arambe House is ours, not Ruto's. All government offices belong to the people. And we can tell them to leave, which is what we plan to do tomorrow. And that is done under clause.
Thank you for the opportunity. So I have 3 things. One, I wanted to just make an observation. It's something I felt. It's a feeling I had when I was in these spaces this evening, and there was a lot of energy. I'm very empathic. There's a lot of agitation and restlessness, but it's in our favor, I should say. I actually strongly believe we shall win. We don't till 2027. Ruto and the system will be overturned, and we will be the case that the rest of Africa is going to look up to. So I just wanted to make that observation. There's a lot